All right, ladies and gentlemen, free radicals, Bernie and Tulsi Kratz and Indie Kratz, Nobody Kratz. Welcome back. I am Dave, and this is the Radical Independent. Gabbard victimized by DNC's dubious debate criteria. Let's get right into this. Each day that goes by, the Tulsi supporters are getting angrier and angrier, and you're going to see some stats and some great commentary here by Michael Tracy, who is one of the good guys. He's a real journalist, and he's writing here for Real Clear Politics. Good for them for including his commentary here. Tulsi Gabbard is on the verge of being excluded from the next Democratic presidential debate on the basis of criteria that appear increasingly absurd. Take, for instance, her poll standing in New Hampshire, which currently places Gabbard at 3.3%, according to the RCP average as of August 20th. One might suspect that such a figure would merit inclusion in the upcoming debates, especially considering she's ahead of several candidates who have already been granted entry, including Cory Booker, Amy Klobuchar, Beto O'Rourke, and Andrew Yang. But the Democratic National Committee has decreed that the polls constituting this average are not sufficiently qualifying. Huh? Folks, it's happening again, in case you're not paying attention. This time it's going to happen to Tulsi Gabbard. Last time it happened to Bernie Sanders. Yeah, Bernie got in debates last time, but it's the same model. It's the same idea that, well, yeah, she's not really our kind of person. She's not really DNC material, so we're going to figure out a way. You can petition. By the way, there are a lot of people. I want to, that online petition, I've signed it. It's change.org. It basically, all that does is it raises awareness. You send it off to whoever, DNC. They look at it and go, oh, look at all these signatures. Sorry. All right, I'm going to keep reading. This is a fairly lengthy article, and I would expect no less from the great Michael Tracy, who, if you listen to him speak, he actually knows the English language, which is very refreshing. He uses words that few commentators use when he talks, so good on him. What makes a poll qualifying in the eyes of the DNC? The answer is conspicuously inscrutable. Examples. Months ago, party chieftains issued a list of approved sponsoring organizations, institutions, for polls that satisfy their criteria for debate admittance. Not appearing on that list is the Boston Globe, which sponsored a Suffolk University poll that placed Gabbard at 3%. The DNC has proclaimed that for admittance to the September and October debates, candidates must secure polling results of 2% or more in 4 separate approved polls, but a poll sponsored by the newspaper with the largest circulation in New Hampshire does not count per this cockamamie criteria. There has not been an officially qualifying poll in New Hampshire, Gabbard's best state, in over a month. Interesting. The absurdity mounts. South Carolina poll by the Post and Courier placed Gabbard at 2%. One might have, again, vainly assumed that the newspaper with the largest circulation in a critical early primary state would be an approved sponsor, per the dictates of the DNC, but it is not. Curious. To recap, Gabbard has polled at 2% or more in 2 polls sponsored by the 2 largest newspapers in 2 early primary states, but the DNC, through its mysteriously incoherent selection process, has determined that these surveys do not count toward her debate eligibility. Without these exclusions, Gabbard would have already qualified. She has polled at 2% or more in 2 polls, officially deemed qualifying, and surpassed the 130,000 donor threshold, while the latter metric would seem more indicative of grassroots support a formerly obscure Hawaii congresswoman has managed to secure more than 160,000 individual contributions from all 50 states, according to the latest figures from her campaign. The DNC has declared that it will prioritize polling over donors. This, folks, I'm sorry. This is, how can I describe this in a word? Blackballing? I'm just trying to think of a word that's strong enough for what's happening here. And this is strong-arming. This is our way or the highway. This has nothing to do. It's like, here are some hoops to jump through. Okay, great, you jump through those, but there's this other hoop over here. You're going to miss that one. Sorry. In the polls with a sample size of just a few hundred people, this means excluding candidates based on what can literally amount to rounding errors. A poll that places a candidate at 1.4% could be considered non-qualifying, but a poll that places a candidate at 1.5% is considered qualifying. Pinning such massive decisions for the trajectory of a campaign on insignificant fractional differences seems wildly arbitrary. Of course, a very well-written article. Take also Gabbard's performance in polls conducted by YouGov. One such poll, published July 21st, sponsored by CBS, placed Gabbard at 2% in New Hampshire, and therefore counts toward her qualifying total. But Gabbard has polled at 2% or more in 5 additional YouGov polls, except those polls are sponsored by The Economist and not CBS. Do you ever notice how if you just stop and you say CBS in the right way, you really do get the truth? CBS. Okay, just wanted to do that once. Needless to say, The Economist is not a sponsoring organization per the whims of the DNC. No, why would we want The Economist? It may be one of the most vaunted news organizations in the world, and YouGov may be a qualified polling firm in other contexts, but the DNC has chosen to exclude The Economist's results for reasons that appear less and less defensible. Then there's the larger issue of how exactly the DNC is gauging grassroots enthusiasm, which ostensibly is supposed to be the principle governing the debate qualifying process in the first place. Gabbard was the most Googled candidate twice in a row after each previous debate, which at a minimum should indicate that there is substantial interest in her campaign. It's an imperfect metric. Google searches and other online criteria could be subject to manipulation, but then again, the other metrics are also noticeably imperfect. This is some great writing and some great reasoning here by Michael Tracy. There is no reason why the DNC could not incorporate a range of factors in determining which candidates voters are entitled to hear from on a national stage. For what it's worth, she also tends to generate anomalously large interest on YouTube and social media. And she's gaining the second most Twitter followers of any candidate after the most recent debate in July. Again, imperfect metrics, but the entire debate qualifying process is based on imperfect metrics. Gabbard has a unique foreign policy-centric message that is distinct from every other candidate, and she has managed to convert a shoestring campaign operation into a sizable public profile. She's currently in Indonesia on a 2-week National Guard training mission, therefore missing a crucial juncture of the campaign. Other candidates poised for exclusion might also have a reasonable claim to entry. Marianne Williamson passed the 130,000 donor threshold this week, but the most egregious case is clearly Gabbard. If only out of self-interest, the DNC might want to ponder whether alienating her supporters is a tactically wise move, considering how deeply suspicious many already are of the DNC's behind-the-scenes role. Memories of a rigged primary in 2016 are still fresh. It's in December 2018 framework for the debates. The DNC declared, given the fluid nature of the presidential nominating process, the DNC will continuously assess the state of the race and make adjustments to this process as appropriate. In other words, we reserve the right to move these goalposts around when we feel it's necessary to eliminate certain candidates. Now would likely be an appropriate time for such a reassessment. Good job, Michael Tracy. So, to recap here, folks, and by the way, my idea, I don't know if it's caught on, there's a few people that retweeted it, that if somehow Gabbard does not get into this, which it's looking more and more like she might not actually be in the next debate. This is mind-boggling. I mean, her grassroots support, her message, the passion that the people have for her campaign, this is one of the great obfuscations that I've ever seen, and I'm sure all the Bernie people from 2016 are saying, see, they're doing it again. They're doing it again. And it's a slow motion accident that is happening. And yet people are like, well, you know, she's only at 2%, and they're going to marginalize that. But guess what? All of these people around her in this photograph, she's doing better than this guy, and I think even Andrew Yang. So my idea, and it still stands, is that you do a separate debate, an indie media debate, and there are a number of great independent / progressive, whatever you want to call them, online personalities. I think Kim Iverson would be great. Nico House, I think, would be good. There are a lot of other. Kyle Kalinske, I think, would be fantastic. And you have Marianne Williamson, Andrew Yang, Tulsi Gabbard, and any other candidate that would like to participate. All right? And I don't know where you stage this. I don't know if you rent out a room and get a nice backdrop, you know, where you could say first real debate, real indie media debate. You could really zing the establishment with a background, a title where these candidates are in front of, and in the back it says, you know, unbought debate, you know, not sponsored by big oil debate. You know, I mean, you could have a lot of fun with it, and you could really poke fun at the establishment. And I think the objective would be to take viewers away from the sponsored neoliberal debate, which, again, you don't learn that much about candidates. In this other debate forum, you would ask real questions. You would do a Joe Rogan-style question and answer, where the candidates are allowed to speak freely. And by the way, that might mean that the debate goes on for a while, but for the sake of information and great sound bites that can be used the next day, and candidates who are able to explain their positions completely and not stepped on by the moderators, which you see this time and again, where a moderator will pose a question, and even before the answer comes out or right after it comes out, they come back with a ridiculous follow-up that has nothing to do with substance, but is really designed more as a gotcha moment, where they're going to get you. That's the whole thing about these debates. Let's see which candidates we can take down, and they're going to find their preferred candidate to take down. Now, I'm assuming Kamala Harris made the debate stage already. Really ridiculous that Kamala Harris isn't just out of this after her incredibly bad performance in the last debate. So this is a real problem, people. This isn't just hypothetical now. This isn't, hey, this might happen. This appears to be happening. And it says right here, his first line, Tulsi Gabbard is on the verge of being excluded from the next Democratic presidential debate on the basis of criteria that appear increasingly absurd. This is unacceptable. And again, if you don't understand why when I started doing this channel that I suggested that the first thing we do is we have to go around it. Now, my prophetic friend Kelly said, this is just basically a dog and pony show, and we know what they're going to do at the end of it. They're going to nominate the neocon that they think can beat Trump. Jill Biden's running around telling everybody that her husband may be lousy on things like healthcare, but we need to beat Trump. This mentality, this Trump derangement syndrome, which has paralyzed ideas, because you're not allowed to speak about ideas because you don't want to rock the boat too hard because you want to be able to beat Trump. And you want to put up the safest, most innocuous candidate you possibly can because, hey, Medicare for all, that's controversial. Forgiving student loan debt, by the way, which Trump just did yesterday for military veterans, which is weird because I thought people in the military got all kinds of subsidies for free education, so I'm a little confused. Anyway, maybe they don't get those subsidies, maybe they don't get college. But that's another video. All I'm saying is that Trump did a slight version of it yesterday, and we need to do a version of it for people who aren't in the military-industrial complex. So that's my video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to support the channel via Patreon, also via PayPal. I'll see you soon.